Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. Of Mice and Men.
Linwood Barkley, Never Look Away.
Captain Coulson.
A Child Called It.
Reading plays a huge part in changing the nation, whether it is reading a novel or a poem in our spare time or reading for school. It seems that at a young age, children enjoy reading and can't get enough of it, but there are concerns that nowadays, teenagers do not enjoy reading as much and just see it as something they are made to do in school.
I like reading science because it has loads of interesting stuff in it. We don't read it a lot in school because we prepare to read it at home. I like to read it to myself more than I like to read it with mum and dad. I don't find reading very hard because I read a lot.
I don't really enjoy reading because it reminds me too much of school. My favourite book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl because it used to make me laugh when I was younger. The last book I read was The Lovely Bones by Alice Segbold. I enjoyed reading this book because it had an interesting storyline. I think more people in the past read than they do now because there's more technology. I probably read a book every 3 months.
I think reading is still very popular. I would hope that reading is still as popular as when I was a young person, and I would hope, in fact, that it's even more popular than when I was a young person. My inspiration to become an author probably happened when I was at school, and probably happened when I first discovered reading and how exciting reading was, really. I remember sitting in the library and for the first time thinking, these books are so exciting, I want to write a book that's going to be exciting. So that's when I first decided I wanted to be a writer, but it took me quite a few years until I actually did become a writer. I would hope that my books would make an impact on children and teenagers. I do get a lot of emails from teenagers in particular, particularly about my book Stolen. I get an awful lot of emails about that book and how much that's helped them to think about. Perhaps they've been in a difficult relationship with a boyfriend and they've thought about being in that horrible relationship and finding the strength to get out of that relationship. So I would hope that my books have a good message for young people.
Books have affected the way in which we see the world. Yet, many people just take reading for granted. How does it feel for people who have difficulties learning to read? How do different people get taught how to read, and how does this help them?
As a child, my favourite book was always The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. It was rude, it was funny, and it was written in a time and a place that I could associate myself with. Now I'm older, I can't tell everyone my favourite book's The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. I've got to choose a grown-up book. About 7 years ago, I had to teach Alice Walker's The Colour Purple as an A-level text, and I was dreading it. It was by a woman that I didn't know, it was set in a place I didn't know or like, and I was really, really putting off planning my lessons around this book. One day I was going to Birmingham to meet up with a friend of mine, and I thought, well, I might as well read it if I'm on the train for 2 hours. And I opened it and read the first page at Lime Street Station. And then I lifted my head up when we were in Birmingham New Street Station, and I'd been holding on to the tears. It was fantastic. I think students today are a lot more enthusiastic about reading than they were 10 years ago. I think a decade ago, the research wasn't there into what teenagers would read. They'd been forced to read books that were boring, that had no thought into their covers or the authors, and schools have done so much to promote literacy from an early age. I think it's really taken off with teenagers. But as an English teacher, my job is to fire up students' imagination and use their vocabulary.
I try to interest children in reading by making sure that the books that I offer them are appropriate to their age and also their interests. Children who suffer from dyslexia were not recognised in the past, but now we've seen that there are children with average ability or above average ability who just have that one difficulty in sound symbol relationships. So we have different styles of teaching for them, and that's actually greatly improved their chances of reading and reading successfully and enjoying reading.